Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
How y'all fellas doing?
What's good? Good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good,
I'm
bless.
well. I'm well.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Let me take this thing off. So she start tripping. Boom. All right. Here we go. So, welcome back to another team meeting where our number one mission is to distract you from your current story, dismantle your current belief systems, and inspire you to change your mind, which will then inspire you to change your life. And today, we're going to spend a lot of time, if not all of it, talking about the changing your mind, changing your life part. Of course, please continue to follow us. We appreciate it. But most importantly, like, comment, and share. Our mission is to serve. So the more people we can get in front of, the better. So like, comment, and share. We sincerely appreciate that. So the focus for today is being open-minded versus being closed-minded. Open-minded versus closed-minded. And if we had more time to whoever watches later or watches today, I want you to think about relating this to being coherent versus being dissonant, if you remember what those things mean. And a quick 10-second synopsis: coherent is when your belief, your habits, your actions, and your thoughts, they all line up. And dissonance is when your belief, your habits, your actions, and your thoughts clash, right? Like, um, essentially, when you want to get healthy, you want the results, you want the clothes to fit a certain way, but you don't want to do the diet part, you want to do the workout part. That would be dissonance. As opposed to you want your clothes to fit a certain way, you want a certain health, but you do the work required to it, required for it. That's called coherence. So today, open-minded versus closed-minded. So number one, closed-minded people don't want their ideas challenged. They are typically frustrated that they can't get the other person to agree with them instead of be curious as to why the other person disagrees. They feel bad about getting something wrong and are more interested in being proven right than they are in asking questions and learning others' perspectives. Right? And I put these two in the corner because now, it's obviously too late, but Shaq was very close minded, right? As are a lot of his fans who pick him over Kobe, according to Shaq, not according to me, right? Because Kobe was always hard on Shaq because clearly Shaq was Shaq, probably the most dominant player ever. But even at that level, he was an underachiever because he wasn't a hard worker to the Kobe level. He wasn't disciplined to the Kobe level. He was eating McDonald's and he was only doing just enough. But still, he was a 15, 20 time All Star, all them championships, yes. But him and Kobe clashed because Kobe knew that he left something on the table, but Shaq wasn't open to that. And once again, that's not a personal opinion. That came from Shaq's mouth a couple of All Star games ago during the interview. And he said they left about 7 championships on the table because he was closed minded, right? He made statements to Kobe, oh, I'm this, I'm that, XYZ, as opposed to making an effort to understand him. Open minded people are more curious about why there is a disagreement. They're not angry when someone disagrees. They understand that there's always the possibility that they could be wrong and that it's worth the little bit of effort and time that it takes to consider the other person's views in order to make sure that they aren't making a bigger mistake, right? Shouldn't have to wait till 20 years later to pursue the possibility that was presented 20 years before. And if you look over here in the corner, you can see Kobe is absolutely locked in to what Phil is saying, very open minded. Closed minded people are more likely to make statements than ask questions. While believability, which we'll talk about on the next slide, while believability entitles you to make statements in certain circumstances, truly open minded people, even the most believable, always ask tons of questions. Um, Non believable people often say that their statements are actually implicit questions, like beneath the surface questions, though they're phrased as low confidence statements. While that's sometimes true, it's more often than not. Right? So all in all is they don't ask questions, closed-minded people. They make statements. And when they do want to ask a question, they're still so closed-minded that they try to finesse their statement to make it a little bit weaker, but still offer their perspective. On the other side, open-minded people genuinely believe that they could be wrong. The questions that they ask are genuine. They also assess their relative believability to determine whether their primary role should be as a student, a teacher, or peer. We'll get into this later, but that's something that I struggle with in like relationships. Like there's questions that other people will ask out of that are like sarcastic or kind of pessimistic or like poke at you, but I'm genuinely asking them. Like I hit Mace yesterday. He had put a poll on his Instagram. Do you want to? He said, "I'm about to start the 90-day challenge again. Who wants to join me?" Right? And his options were, "I'm with you" or "You bugging." And the vote, when I voted, it was like 50-50. So first I told him, I said, it's not a challenge. That's why you stopped. Because a challenge, you get to stop. A commitment, you have to do no matter what. Most people treat it like a challenge. That's why they do half of it or a third of it. They don't do it all. It's not a commitment. And that's why they stop, because a commitment you have to do anyway. But I asked him, I said, yo, ask the people why they bugging. I mean, ask the people why they nervous. How come they don't want to do it? Well, a lot of people see that, oh, you trying to be funny. Yo, I'm genuinely interested to understand what's in your mind why you're scared to commit 90 days to yourself. Like, why are you nervous? But that's a genuine question from an open-minded person. Closed-minded person wouldn't receive that well. Next slide. Closed-minded people focus much more on being understood than on understanding others. When people disagree, they tend to be quicker to assume that they aren't being understood than to consider whether they're the ones who are not understanding the other person's perspective. Right? So they driving it home. They're always cutting you off. They're telling you the same story in all these different colors. On the other side, open-minded people always feel compelled to see things through the other person's eyes. Right? One thing I know for a fact, especially if you are an investor, you can be Democrat or Republican, but you'll be open-minded if you invest and you see the difference in these last couple of months than the last couple of years, right? I know that's a big picture, but that's something that I would be open to exploring both sides to see if there was any difference from before till now. Because I know January through March been a little bit different than before. So this is, I should have made this bigger and probably should have gave it its own slide. This is the most important part of this lesson. So for your reference, believable people are those who have repeatedly and successfully accomplished something and have great explanations for how they do it, right? So something that I am believable for is education, right? Since the 7th grade, I was going to school at Princeton, Ivy League school, 7th grade, right? Went to one of the best schools, I don't want to say the world, but at least in the country at the high school level, which today is about 65,000 to attend. I was whatever, one of them cum laudes. I had like a 3.8 undergrad, great student undergrad, 4.0 in grad school. I've been a teacher now for 8 years, 2-time national teacher of the year nominee. Now, I'm not supposed to do the application this year, y'all. I ain't do it. I just have yet to put my time there and to actually receiving the reward because I really don't care about it. And all of these different accolades as an educator. So I'm very, very believable when it comes to education. I have the work to show you, right? But closed-minded people like, yo, this is what you got to do. This is what I'm going to tell you. You're going to have to get up early. And before all your classmates get up, you're going to have to study, yo. You're going to have to write it. You're going to have to listen to it. You're going to have to look at it. You're going to have to find a way that you receive the information best. You're going to have to study. Then you're going to have to do office hours, come into your teacher, and realize that you're really building a relationship instead of getting extra learning. So they know when you at that 79 level, but you know they busted your behind to get there, they might kick you over to that 81 so you get the B instead of the C. And that's a lesson you can use later in business. but give you all of these different resources to use that you're clearly not using. But most students, most parents are going to be closed-minded because they don't want to contribute that amount of time to that work. Or if it comes to like editing a video, Pizzle's going to be the most believable. Go to his website, you can see. You may not want to do the process he tells you, right? Or you want to buy a house, flip it, and sell it and move around. You want to listen to Just. He can show you his portfolio, you can see. You want to get in shape, just stand next to Kendall, you can see. But so many times people don't want to do the work to get whatever the results may be. They're open to the results, but closed to the work, even when it comes from believable people. So if a person who has results that you desire and you don't do what they see and you don't do what they say, you're closed-minded, right? It may not look exactly how they say, right? But they got the proof in the pudding to show you that what they do works. That's something that's very, very important. And as an educator and as a Black man, that's something that we struggle with in our community. We get bad results and still want to do things our way. Closed-minded people say things like, I could be wrong, but here's my opinion. They already know they're not securing what they're saying, but they share it anyway. And it's often a hurried gesture that allows people to still hold their opinion while convincing themselves that they're being open-minded, right? If your statement starts with, I could be wrong, or I'm not believable, or maybe this or maybe that, you probably shouldn't say it, right? Or if you do, follow it with a question and don't double down on it, right? So the emphasis so far is questions, 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 as opposed to statements. Open-minded people know when to make statements and when to ask questions. And that's a sign of a great communicator. Usually, they speak last. Right? And usually, everybody listens because they know that they took in everybody's perspectives, and the information that they're getting back is I guess I could say a full, well-rounded perspective as opposed to a personal opinion. Okay? And I didn't talk about the picture. Let me go back. Where's my mouse? All right. Come on. So in the pictures, we have Antonio Brown, right? I don't know what they were talking about at this very moment, but it's public information now that they clashed after a while. Mike Tomlin was giving Antonio Brown advice and he wasn't following it. Now, what went on privately, who knows? Like, maybe Tomlin was absolutely wrong. I don't know. I'm just going off of public information and just seeing how he did kind of have a meltdown, right? He wasn't listening. He was proving his point all the time, right? And on the other side, when he was breaking records back to back years, he was listening to his coach, who was a very good receiver, who may or may not be, I will have to think of some other people, but maybe the greatest Black head coach of all time at the NFL level, with so many years left. I see you thinking, KG. He's got to be one of them. He's got to be one of them. But he started to melt down, AB, when he was closed-minded. All right? Closed-minded people prevent others from speaking. It seems like someone else isn't leaving space for the other person in a conversation. They dominate the conversation, right? And they're not absolutely right. It's possible they are blocking. To get around blocking, enforce the 2-minute rule, which is where both parties take turns speaking in 2-minute increments. As I've studied, spoke to therapists and doctors, this is something that's big in relationships. I've heard it, I've read it, especially like when a woman is talking to a man. I know y'all saw that viral video a couple months back when a girl was talking and she had like the NBA on her head and the dude wasn't even listening. He was watching the game. But they said that you should cap your time when you're speaking to a man because eventually we tune out. That's what they say. Some therapists call it a vent box, right? A vent box where you cap it. Open-minded people are always more interested in listening than in speaking. And they encourage others to voice their views. So You being closed-minded, you do everything in your power to dominate the conversation. It's one-sided. As opposed to being open-minded, you take it in, then you share your perspective. Closed-minded people have trouble holding on to two different thoughts at the same time. They got theirs, and they're doing everything in their power to drive that home. On the other side, open-minded people can take multiple thoughts, put them all together, assess, and then share. Right? You look on this side, I knew about this, but I was still kind of shocked when I found the picture. Like, look at Mike Tyson. You feel me? He clearly was closed off to a lot of stuff when he was in a bad space. Look like a character. He don't even look like him, right? Or Josh Gordon. Couldn't get it right, right? He may have some addiction problems and all that kind of stuff, but everybody who's ever been addicted, the ones who are cured, they did it themselves. Doctors and meetings and all that can treat you, but a cure simply comes from opening your mind and doing different things, right? He could have been this guy, right? He could have been Calvin Johnson. That one season that he had was, I think, like the second or third best season of all time, in like his second season, and he ruined it. Clearly, he still wants to play. He's playing for the Zappers, right? Whoever they are. And no shade to them. Like, some people just want to play. But that's not a place for where a Hall of Fame talent should be. But on the other side, Mike Tyson opened his mind to whatever and went from this dude on the left to this dude on the right. So open-minded people, all in all, they dominate the conversation and they do everything in their power to drive their perspective home. They're not open to anything else, right? So what's the solution? So find something important enough that you need to win. You need to win. For example, your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever can say, Tony, I need you to do X, Y, Z. Oh, men don't do that. I'm not doing that. All right, well, why don't you try ABC? My family didn't teach me to do that. And then when she get fed up and she leave, now all of a sudden you open to doing ABC. You open to doing X, Y, Z because you need her back. Or if you're a student, you should study. You should read. You should come to office hours. No, I'm good. Progress reports come out and you got an F or a D. Oh, now all of a sudden you need the grade. You care, right? So you need to win from the beginning. When you need to win, I emphasize need and not want. When you need, you'll be open. Yo, you should take care of your body 7 days a week. Oh, nah, that's too much. Not every day. I won't do that. Or when you learn, G shared a pretty powerful video yesterday that America is the best country in the world, but without the 1%, we're actually really like a third world country. Primarily because of how much our healthcare costs and the way that we care for ourselves. Oh, dang, I learned that like half my income goes to healthcare. And I learned that I can get a bottle of pills in Canada for $20 that I'm getting charged $2.99 in America for. Oh, I'm about 50 now. I got a cold that damn near killed me. Oh, I'm gonna start doing this every day. What should I do, KG? Monday through Sunday, I'm open to it. Right? There comes a point when you graduate from what do I have to do to I'll do whatever. When it's an obligation, what do I have to do? You're still closed off to some things, right? Because it's like a penalty. I have to do this, as opposed to I'll do whatever it takes. That's being open-minded. Before, I wasn't open to doing things 7 days a week. I never even asked a question like, KG, is it not healthy to lift all hard 7 days a week? Yes, that's very unhealthy, right? But on the days when your body is telling you that you need a break, do some yoga. That counts. Do some meditation. That counts. Take a walk. That counts. Do some stretching. That counts. But you did not skip a day. Like when an athlete gets injured, they come back worse when they was chilling, when they was hurt, as opposed to being, KG always talked about active recovery. They were rehabbing themselves, which is harder than when they're healthy, right? So you have to find something important enough to you that you need to win, right? So for example, LeBron never wanted to leave Cleveland. Never wanted to leave Cleveland. Obviously, that's why he went back. And he seemed far more excited for his third ship with Cleveland than he was for the first two with Miami. He said, I'm not winning here. So now I'm open to making this decision and I'm going to leave. He needed to win, right? KD, very similar situation, right? And you never hear me bash anybody for going to the best team for them and following the rules. And every other profession in the world, it's ideal to go to the best team, right? Why would you go to Ask Jeeves instead of Google? Right? Like, why? It doesn't even make sense. You want the best supporting cast around you. LeBron and Chris Paul and the whole players organization, whatever their name is, that's led by the lady who's the lawyer, they busted their behind to change the contract situation so you can have 4 max players on the team. It just so happens KD was a free agent at that time. Oh, everybody's going to bash me because y'all just beat us, right? But I'm open to playing with y'all so we can be the best team ever. And people can say what they want, but I'm the best player on this team. Right? He was open to it. Peyton was hurt when he got cut from Indy. Said, I would never play with nobody besides Indy. But he was open to going somewhere else. And then won another Super Bowl. Went to 2 more. Right? So I know these are all sports related, but they needed to win. They needed to win. And they were open to hurting their family, their home team, Cleveland, and the fans, right? That's why everybody was so pissed off when they left, burning their jerseys and defacing their murals and damaging their name and all this kind of stuff. But they didn't understand that that person needed to win. And that's such a powerful image because, like, if you are like us, the first in your family, the first in your circle or whatever, who needs to win and you're willing to make sacrifices that others are not, your name might get damaged by them, right? Or your image may be damaged by them. They may not understand, right? But no matter what, when LeBron hangs him up, it might be LeBron James Stadium, if it's not already in Cleveland. When KD hangs him up, his name is going to be on that Ring of Honor, right? Both of them cities. Same thing with Peyton, right? They learned later to appreciate what that person saw that the other people did not see. So all in all, the lesson is to ask questions. Ask questions, right? If you don't have the results, more or less, what you're doing is not working, right? It's not right. Find a believable party and do what they advise you to do, right? And last thing before I let you all share, if you are closed-minded, yo, that's cool, but just don't lie about it. Like, one thing I hate is like excuses and reasons. Like, for example, last week we had our Game 7 meeting. Just kind of pressed me out a little bit, let me know how important it was to him, raised his voice a little bit about something that he felt I needed to do in my life. But I said, Josh, you're right, but I'm not doing it. I let him know that I was closed off to it, as opposed to coming off with all these kind of excuses and points and all that. But I did. I asked tons of questions, right? I did do my best to understand them, which I did. But I told him I wasn't going to do it. I was closed off to it, right? However, that very next day, I took what he said and acted on it in a little bit different way than what he said, but I was open to his overall perspective, right? The part that he did lack, though, he's not all the way believable in my situation because he hasn't been there. But he is believable because he knows me and he's been there for 10 years, 12 years before the situation and all of the years after, right? That's what I told him. I said, yo, Just, like, I get it, but this part you don't know. But clearly his information was powerful enough for me to act on it the very next day. But the part I did tell him is that, yo, I'm closed-minded to that. It's like I told you all a couple of weeks ago. I said, yo, y'all did what y'all did, but just tell me it wasn't important enough to you, right? Just like Justin, he said, yo, no, I can't do it right now. I'm closed off today because I'm doing this, but I'll be back. So if you are closed off to something, if it's a valuable party who's on the other side, just tell them you're closed off. Because eventually that believable party is going to distance themselves from you because of the amount of pushback that they get from you, knowing that they're the believable one and you're not. All right, so I'll open it up to y'all and I will be quiet for a while. What y'all think?
All great information. Can y'all hear me very clearly? All right.
Yeah.
All great information. I think as I begin to mull over the information, I guess I'm at a space in my life where I begin to think, how does an individual get to the place of being open-minded or closed-minded, right? Nobody just comes into this world on either side. But I guess in the time that I've been here and you know I've been able to live, I've learned that it really does depend who your circle of influence is, or what the who the people in your family are as you go through the process of life. Because most times people just mimic exactly what those around them are doing in their approach to life. So I guess reality TV gives us an opportunity to see inside of some people's lives, even if some of those things are casted or not. But you will notice a very, very different mindset amongst families where there are high achievers. The way that they view challenges are completely different. The way that they view obstacles, the way that they view opportunities are very, very different. And those are just the approaches that the adults have. Now, if you have children that are in that household or in that cohort, let's say, more times than not, their automatic response when they are, met with opposition, they're met with challenges, they're going to mimic what they've seen other adults around them do. And then the opposite is true as well. If you happen to be in a family where, obstacles come along the way and there's that closed-minded approach of, always trying to prove your point or not being open to other suggestions or ways to approach the situation or overcome it, then more than likely children are going to adopt that same approach, and eventually those children become adults. And then we have this cycle continue. So as we talk about many times, on our podcast and on this platform, it's important to be mindful of who you are at this moment. And if you don't have individuals around you that are, feeding you in a direction that you want to go in, it's important to find other individuals who have different characteristics. In layman's terms, if you grew up in a family that is closed-minded, and after learning the difference between open and closed-minded people, and you realize that people in your family or people in your circle are mostly closed-minded, and you've chosen that that is not who you want to be, and you're not happy with the results that are going on in your life, then you have to make a very, very intentional decision on finding people that are open-minded, or begin to read books, or begin to, become a part of an online community or something, right? But something has to change, because if you could change it yourself, it would have been done a long time ago. And not to say that, you don't have the power to change it, but there's going to have to be some extra steps that you need to make in order for that reality to change for you. Especially, I want to take back that last statement, meaning by saying that you can't change it, because you can, but it's going to be by using different types of resources like books, right? It's going to be your commitment to those kinds of resources, or YouTube videos, or going to see to seminars whenever we're able to get back together in a normal space of those sorts. But it is really important for you to be able to identify who you are, and be honest with yourself about if you're happy with who you've discovered yourself to be at that moment. What you guys think, KP and KG?
I'll go ahead. I think one of the last things that you said was understanding who you are at that moment, right? I think that's an extremely important piece between being open and closed-minded, right? Because when you're open-minded and you know who you are, then obviously you're going to be willing to take a little bit more risk, You're gonna be willing to gain a little bit more knowledge, ask questions, do things differently because you do and are confident in who you are. Right? It's perfect that we flip back to the slide because those three guys that we're looking at right now, I'm pretty sure they know who they are, right? Because if they didn't, they wouldn't have the ability to make a extremely tough decision. Because as Malcolm stated earlier, they were going to get a lot of bashing of their name, despite what they did for the for other organizations in that community. But if they didn't know who they were, it was going to be extremely hard for them to make a decision of being and having a mentality of being open-minded because the first thing you want to do is think about other people, right? And with an open mind and knowing who you are, you have to be like, okay, like I'm not sure where this is going to take me, but this is the steps I need to take in order for me sacrificing in needing to win, right? A closed mind person would be like, well, kind of I've done this anyway. I keep doing it anyway. I'm not. This is just who I am. I'm gonna do this. Yeah, and a little bit, and that could be the reason why people who are closed-minded are that way because they may not believe in themselves enough to have that mindset open enough to in order to make new choices, right? Because when you make new choices and do things differently, you have to have a certain confidence and faith that you have the ability to do that, or even just to think differently. You have to have a confidence and a trust within yourself that will support your decision. And another thing is when people with closed-minded mindsets don't like to listen often, it's because they often want to prove a point of their right. Like they don't really care what's going on. They always, well, I'm right. Like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm right. Like it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It's about making a solution, and a lot of people don't realize that. And this is a lot of times in relationships, people want to be the person who's correct, and in the problem or whatever is going on. But when you just try to prove your point that you're right, are you really finding the solution, right? Because you got to remember when you're doing something is you and your partner, you and whoever the relationship is, versus the problem, not y'all versus each other, then versus the problem, because it's never going to be any problem. What you think, KP?
Yeah, I mean that was definitely good, and I know one thing that kind of stood out for me was I know Just touched on it, and then Malk touched on it earlier in the slide. Was definitely about exposure, right? Like who do you have around you? Who do you have to look up to? One of the famous things I always laugh at, and every time I feel like I've seen this video a million times, but every single time it plays, I always listen to it. And the video is a video of 50 Cent when he says, I used to listen to my father, but he said, yo, you get as far as the people that you listen to every day for no reason. And when you think about it, it hits very hard because it's like it's all about exposure, right? If you don't put yourself in a situation to learn from others, to build you up and have that open mind towards it, you'll never really get to a certain point, or you won't get to that particular person's level. So I think it's all about having exposure and being around the right crowd. So that way you have that open mind. You're able to ask those questions. You're able to gain an understanding on the same level that person's teaching you. And another thing that I thought was very important and was pretty good to see was being confident in what you say and what you actually believe in your questions, right? Confidence goes a long way, and it is not just in these particular situations. Confidence goes a long way in a lot of different situations. Even talking to KG, he said, oh, KP, I mean, look very confident Friday when we were out for happy hour, right? It's just everything. When confidence is there, everything else is better. So I think it's very important to be confident when you actually make your statements. Because like think about a coach. If a coach ever gives you any information and he's not confident, he looks terrible. I saw a great video of this of Andy Dalton. They said he couldn't motivate me to make a sandwich, and he was in the huddle, And he was trying to get the guys talking, but he just had no confidence in anything he was saying. And it was like, yo, you could tell he just did not know how to lead the people or to how to gain like the best out of that person. So make sure you're confident with what you say. Be confident with the questions that you ask. And those are key things that kind of help you get better.
Yeah, I like that, KP. And to expound on that as well as what Just said, for this, parenting is very important, right? Generally speaking, there's three different kinds of parents. You have the helicopter parent. No, is it three or four? Right? You got the helicopter parent, right? Every single thing that you do, they on top of you, right? They just everywhere that you go. Like the helicopter with the spotlight looking for the dude that ran from the feds, right? Everywhere you go, the helicopter is there. You have the laissez-faire one. You just chilling. Your kids is whatever they doing. Like now there's some modern way of parenting called like free range parents, where like 3-year-olds take themselves to school. Like it's usually in an affluent community where the village raised the kids, right? And it kind of makes sense, but like it's real laissez-faire. Um, laissez-faire. Then you have the drill sergeants, right? Like the old grandma or like some of the black mothers. Like what I say goes. Like just because you're the parent and you're older, don't mean you right. Like your kid can be 3, you could be wrong. Like when y'all got kids, sometimes you're like, dang, like sometimes Nas tell me something like, I didn't even notice that. You feel me? You gotta be open to it. But that's the drill sergeant. Like I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. But what's said to be the most powerful is the consultant parent, right? When something went wrong, don't just let them do it. Don't just be on their head the whole time where you saw everything and you just there all the time. Yo, find out what happened. Yo, Nas, how come you was late to school? uh, I just was late, or I was on my game, or I went to the bathroom, or I thought it started at 9. You find out what was going on, right? And use it as a teachable moment, not just a moment to share your power, right? You're also teaching that it's okay to make mistakes, right? A kid gets in trouble, typical parent, don't talk, I'm talking. But they may be asking them a question that will help them not repeat that mistake in the future. But if that's not something that is molded throughout their life, as they get older, they don't ask questions. Something I'm huge on and I always overemphasize and highlight in school, I'm a math teacher. Yo, sometimes I mess up. I tell the kids to get on me when I mess up, to teach them like, yo, you gonna mess up, bro. I've been doing math for 25 years. You feel me? Sometimes I mess up. That teaches them like, yo, you can mess up and own it, right? Or somebody talk and they cut me off, cool. Like as a kid, like everybody don't have communication skills. I'm going to listen. Or when they don't have open mind, I take time to teach that concept, right? So the best kind of leadership is a consultant, being part of a team where the team gets to speak. It's not just what the boss says, do this, do that, X, Y, Z, right? Because you can have the best system in the world, right? You can be Blockbuster, killing it. Netflix pulled up on you, you had a closed mind. We're not going to waive the late fees. That's an extra 400% per transaction, right? Closed minded. Look at Blockbuster. They got one building open in the country versus Netflix. They're everywhere. You feel me? Raised their prices and got all these millions and billions and more customers throughout the pandemic, right? So it's very, very important. And also, too, in schools, like we got to stop being drill sergeants. The teacher is not you, just a person. The key is building the relationships with the students, staff, faculty, and everyone else, and you get so much more, as opposed to the student hates coming in your classroom because it's such a drill sergeant atmosphere. That promotes a closed mind, and it limits the youth. It limits your friends, your peers, and everybody as they grow. And the last thing before whoever is next. Also, when you're that closed-minded person, by staying that way, like the best people around you, like these peer groups we urge you to become a part of, they distance themselves from you. Like there's still people I know. There's people that we all know that we just won't get into it with because they won't listen. Right? And whatever we're talking about, we're far more believable. But they just stuck there because they gotta do it their way. They gotta share their perspective. They gotta do whatever. So that makes the people who may have some info to share with you or some solution, it makes them distance themselves from you. Because eventually they don't like to argue no more, especially when they know that they're right. They'll have dialogue with you with another open-minded person, right? But by staying closed-minded, you're damaging relationships with the people that truly add value to you. And you're also limiting their perspectives about what your gift is that you clearly don't see by being closed-minded that can help you add value to other people. So don't be a drill sergeant, be a consultant. And if you are closed-minded, realize that you're damaging relationships with the people that can probably help you with whatever you may be going through. And if you're closed-minded, you've probably been going through it for a very long time. That's what I got. What y'all think?
Yeah, I would definitely piggyback on the damaging relationships part because that's exhausting, right? Especially when someone comes to you and seeks information from you, and then you listen to what they're going through and things like that, and then after you listen and do your due diligence, um, you give your opinion or some feedback to them. And one of the worst things to do is once you start giving them information, no, but it's just like, first of all, you came to me, man. Like you came to me, and do you want to get better or not? And it's frustrating because that's a lot of energy drain. Like, and I respect the fact that you reached out, but what are you trying to accomplish here? Are you trying to get me to agree that your way is right or whatever you're doing is right? Like, because I'm not going to do that. Like at this point, it's more so just like talking in circles. So just understand that is extremely damaging because it's similar to like someone who's negative, like who has that negative mindset. Like no one really wants to be around you because it's like, the added value are you bringing to the situation? And it's extremely tough because the person who is closed-minded is just like stuck in their way, and no matter what you say or do to them, it's like always a rebuttal for them. So it's like they're not willing to listen, but they're willing to react. So that's extremely exhausting.
Nothing's worse than somebody who's hard-headed, right? Like we all grew up with our mom saying a hard head makes a soft behind. And it's so true because it's like you can try to teach somebody over and over again, keep drilling into them, but if they're not going to take your advice, eventually, like you say, you just distance yourself and you say, all right, cool, well, you got it. You know the way, you know what you're doing, no problem. So I agree with that, KG.
So I was reminded yesterday after having a conversation with a gentleman that was helping me out with some things around my house. And I was replaying my experience when my dad had got sick with cancer. And just a 30-second synopsis. So my dad was 48 years old and went to the hospital one day because his back was hurting and he had some other things going on. And when they did his blood work, they believed that he might have cancer, waited a couple of days, did some follow-up tests, and then confirmed that he had cancer. And about maybe 2 or 3 days later, he went into a coma for 5 days. And I'm not sure if anybody's ever had that experience before with a loved one, but that is an extremely, tough position to be in. Instantly I could understand that me and my family were no longer in control. And this was a time that we needed God's help in a way that we never needed him before. And as I'm reminded from the screen that Malk had up before, which is You know, the solution is when you find something that you need to win. And you know, it's crazy how when you don't focus on certain things in your life, but you're taught them, they come back at the right moments, right? All of the things that you are taught as a young person, because, you know, people do their best to build and develop young people into the ideal individual. You know, especially if you're an adult and you're honest with yourself about maybe some of your shortcomings, you do your best to ensure that your children or children around you don't, you know, have the same characteristics or make the same mistakes as you. And during that time and sharing that story with the gentleman yesterday, I was reminded that I had completely taken myself out of the equation when praying to God and pleading with Him, and you know, seeing a 48-year-old man essentially be lifeless on a bed after, you know, watching him not eat chicken and exercise and not drink alcohol and not smoke and all of these things, and his reality was what it was. It was very unexplainable at that time. But my prayers began to become a lot more clear as I removed myself and my expectations. And at the end, you know, as my prayers began to change, I began to pray and ask God to give me my dad back in any condition that He would allow me to have him. Right? That's very, very different from what my prayers began at. You know, it was from, you know, wake him up and please don't let him have cancer anymore, or wake him up, let him please be, you know, be stronger than he was before, to I don't care if I had to change my dad's diapers and feed him every single day. I'll take him in whatever condition that you'll give him to me. And I think there's power in that, because, you know, the more and more that you allow yourself to be vulnerable and you allow yourself to be open to possibilities on situations that you are looking to achieve, or, you know, things that you're looking to overcome in this life, the more you make yourself receptive to, you know, stepping into those kinds of realities. Sometimes you have to take your expectations off the table, though, right? You have to be willing and open to accept them in any condition, because your goal is to receive it. Now, once you have, or you step into whatever the reality is that you're asking for, you know, there's always potential for growth. But, you know, sometimes your expectations are what is the limiting factor. And of course, that experience is very unique and very, very different, you know. But I think it does, you know, it did call a lot of attention to me as I'm in a different stage in my life, and I'm open to the possibilities that this life has to offer me in the next series of chapters that I'm in. I learned that I have to take some of my expectations off, which is essentially, you know, moving away from being closed-minded, right? Being open-minded to whatever this next stage or this next journey will look like. And I will be able to, you know, step into it a lot more openly and receptively, if I am no longer putting my own definition or image or vision on it. Because the goal in life is just to continue to move forward, not to, you know, only accept if it meets your expectations.
My slight pushback to that would be, just because that's something that I struggle with too, is that we don't have to like alter our expectations. We just have to accept the fact that everybody's not going to be willing to meet them. Right? There's nothing like the thing that we struggle with is like there's no extravagant expectations that I really have for people. You know, well, at least I don't believe so. But I do have to be open to the fact that everybody's not willing to be the version of themselves that I'm committed to being. Everybody's not willing to work on a solution for whatever their problems may be at the pace that I may like it be, that I may like it to be, right? But we've made it to where we are today because of because of our expectations, not really for other people, but we don't expect nothing from other people that we don't expect from ourselves. right? So I don't think that is too much. However, I do believe that, and I'm working on this too, I got to be open to the fact that if the person doesn't meet them, that doesn't take away from them overall. They just not be the person that I lean on in that area. But like as I study successful people, watch the documentaries and journeys and stuff, they all had crazy expectations, all of them, and that was a big reason why most of them were like isolated, like in their own little space until boom, they hit whatever they hit, and all of a sudden people had open minds. All of a sudden people wanted to meet these expectations because that person had whatever results. So I just think that you and I, in our quest, and whoever else this may apply to, we're just actively seeking those results so we can be more of that believable party. Right? But I'm going to just challenge you, and I don't know if this is where you're going or not, but you don't change your expectations, right? And even with your relationship with God and your dad, like, I wasn't there. I think you just said that you accepted, like, yo, he may come back and I may need to care for him. But deep down, I'm sure you truly want him to come back stronger. But you accepted the fact that your expectation may not have been met. I don't think that you necessarily lowered them, and you accepted that you will be grateful for however it turned out. Does that make sense?
No, definitely. I think making that shift to being open to whatever condition God will give me my dad back in allowed me to be in a space of being thankful for whatever the reality could be when he opened his eyes, right? And for those who don't know, when my dad did wake up, he lost his ability to walk and hear, right? And his vision for a couple of days, right? But my thanks was through the roof. You would have thought I hit the Powerball 50 times in a row, right? To get a lesser version or a new version of my dad, right? Which was with less ability. And I only share that part, not necessarily about changing my expectations, because I think there's a shift that needs to happen for you to allow to be in a space of thanks. And that is super important on your journey. And I only say that because I'm a person, and throughout my life, that if something is not meeting the expectation or the vision that I see for myself, I'm in complete disgust throughout that time, right? I don't allow the space sometimes to be thankful for what is currently happening or the process. So I want to maybe clean that up for people, and it's not changing your expectations, but being thankful for the realities that you're sitting in currently, because this is a process going throughout life, right? Very similar to my dad. Eventually, with super powerful hearing aids, he could hear better than nothing, right? He never fully got his true hearing back, but and I remember talking to him on the phone one day. If anybody has ever had an experience with somebody that's lost their hearing before, their voice changes, because your voice is very, very connected to you being able to hear yourself talk. You change the inflections in your voice, and you know what your voice sounds like, right? So, there was a period of months where my dad didn't have any hearing aids, and we were going through the process of, going through doctors and things and seeing if he would be able to, have his hearing come back naturally. And I remember, my dad had a very slow, dragged out voice when he couldn't hear. And I talked to him on the phone one day, and the very first day he got his hearing aids, and I heard my dad back again. And for anybody that knows him, that joker had power in his voice. Oh man, I dropped to my knees and began to cry like a baby, because because of not changing my expectations, but choosing to be thankful, right? For the dragged out voice for months. I was just thankful that he could still be here and hear any version of his voice, right? Same goes for his walking, right? Not having the ability to get out of the bed and go to the bathroom, and having to slide on a transfer board, for those people who know what that is, right? Or getting in a wheelchair and him learning how to sit up straight, because, your legs really do create stability for you when you're sitting down. Seeing him go through that process and helping him through that process, to where, you know, him being able to get up and walk on a walker with leg braces. I mean, you would have thought we seen him fly, right? Because of the amount of thanks that we had. And sometimes in this life, you are brought down to such a low level, or you are put on your back, you know, from the pressure that life puts on you or certain circumstances, that I believe in my faith that those are the places that you become most open and you become most usable by God, right? Because you've, at that point, you've taken yourself completely out of it. You've made yourself receptive. Yes, you keep your expectations, but I've heard my entire life, you'll achieve so much more if you just get out of the way. You're in your own way. You got to get out of your way, though, right? And many times during especially this conversation of being closed-minded, you're in your own way of achieving what you have the potential to achieve. It is simply a mindset that you have. You have to undo most of the doing that you've done, right? Or the following that you've done. So I believe there's a huge connection between, you know, my experience with my dad. I was closed-minded in the beginning with my prayers and what I was willing to accept, to being open-minded to whatever form or fashion, right? And I could be thankful that, you know, my dad remembered phone numbers when he woke up from his coma after a couple of days, right? Like, that's a very different kind of thanks than saying he gonna get back and back at it better than he was before. He became a better version of himself. It just was altogether different, right? And removing myself and my expectations from that allowed me to be thankful, allowed me to be able to squeeze every single ounce of those last 2.5 years that I had with my dad after that, that I don't struggle with him not being here in the way that, you know, some may if they weren't as intentional about that time that they spent with him. And, you know, Malk, KP, and KG are completely aware of the situation. KP was around and Malk was around physically to see, you know, that time period. And I'm super thankful, but I also learned that I didn't go through that process in life for nothing. It will apply and it will reappear in my life because, you know, God says that in this life, trouble will come. Not that it may come, but it will come, right? And the things that you learn during those down moments are there to shape you for future experiences. It's important not to forget that. It may not be the same thing that you're going through. You know, KG had a transition from being a college athlete to an NFL athlete to not being an athlete at all, right? And all of us have been collegiate athletes, right? And there's a transition that we all share together. And there are things that you can pull from that experience in the professional world, in your relationship world, in your, you know, health journey, right? They're all relevant pieces of information that you gather and relevant experiences that you have that you can use further on your journey. So I know we make a lot of sports analogies and comparisons on our platform here, but remember that life is a competition too. So that's the reason why you can always pull from the different experiences and examples that we offer here.
And just like that was a great testimony for sure. You know, talking about how what you seen as who your dad was going to be when he came back. Your thoughts about that changed. I can relate to that in terms of just talking about the transition out of football, right? The closed-minded Kendall, when I first started transitioning with the failure, I was embarrassed. I just didn't believe that I was successful, right? Because my perspective was different. Like I wasn't looking at it with thanks. I wasn't looking at it with gratitude, right? So then when I started to talk to other people, I still remember when I moved back to Jersey briefly, like talking with my brother, and he was like, "Bro, like, would you want to play? Like, do I still want you to play?" But yeah, he said, "Bro, you gave me some experiences that I've never had before. Like, I went to NFL games. Like I met NFL athletes, realized they're just normal people. I went to California, and I talk about this all the time. Like, because I went to a school in the middle of nowhere for high school, so my appreciation for the outdoor began there. Even though I was trying to act like I didn't rock with it, but when the first time my brother came to California, we were driving back from the airport. I'm saying, yo, look at these mountains, like, beautiful, like beautiful mountains, but in the view. And he kind of looked at me like, did the slow turn, like what are you talking about? Like what, like But then the next time he came back, he was like, yo, like I see what you're talking about, and that was all his mind opening up as well. But when he talked to me about that, it's like, man, you gave me experience, you gave family experience, you did what 1% of your sports were able to do, and you were able to compete and play at the highest level, make relationships. So that started getting my mind to think differently, because I went from this period of just me thinking I was a complete failure, because I was so close-minded to the fact that I was done playing ball, and I was so close-minded to even see any of the blessings that I was given in my life. And when you started talking about, how your prayers change, and you said you would like any version of your father back, it definitely kind of resonated with me. It was like, wow, like I really was able to accomplish. And obviously, I've seen this now, like I've seen this for the last couple of years, but that just always gives me that, like, that oomph behind it. Like I'm a part of a fraternity that, I'm going to keep and maintain these relationships with such great people for many years to come. And that helps in business, right? If I was just thinking closed-minded, I would just be thinking about me on the football side and not playing. But like, as I said, I gave other people experience. I gained experience myself. I gained people that I can continue to create and build a relationship. I have a network that I'm open to. So many things came from my experiences, but the way I was thinking about it completely altered my perception of what was actually the case. So just like you said, man, like you really can get in your own way at times, right? Because when you get in your own way, it could be paralyzing, right? And I always say fear is paralyzing, but when you overthink and battle with yourself, like that can paralyze you, because you can get pulled and tugged in so many different ways that you can't go anywhere. So that's just something that really resonated with me, man. And I think it's really important, right? A lot of people tend to uh, look at things in a way that they aren't thankful for their experience at all. Because if it didn't go up, and like it didn't go the way everyone expected, a lot of people take that as a failure, right? And you don't realize the beauty and the lessons and the experience and the moment actually gives you in your life. So since that day on, I had to continue to learn and tell myself that, like, it's beauty behind every experience, right? Because in this journey, you're learning from everything, no matter if it's a dub or if it's a L. Like that journey, as long as you keep an open mind, it will create many paths for you, because now you can absorb that information that you receive.
That was very good too, KG and Jess. And one thing I picked up from that, KG, is that a lot of things don't happen to you; they happen for you. And I know I've heard Malcolm say that a few times before, but I think that's so true. And another thing that people got to realize, and to touch on what Jess said, is that stars shine in the dark, not the light, right? Like you don't see stars during the daytime, but you always see stars at night. And even with that, even if you're in a city or if you're in an area where there's a lot of light, the stars still aren't really that bright, or you can barely see them. It's not really until you separate yourself from everybody, you separate yourself from all the population of people, and you're really in the pitch black, then that's when you can really point out the stars in the sky, and you're able to point those things out. So definitely understand that. Go through the darkness, make it through. and always stay consistent, right? I think a lot of times when people go through the darkness, it's hard to measure things, and it's kind of hard to see that progress. But if you think about it, you know, every great conqueror doesn't know that he's won the fight until the fight is literally over, right? So you got to continue to go through it. You got to continue to fight through it, continue to be consistent, continue to have that open mind. And that's what's really going to propel you to that next level or propel you through that dark situation that clearly it was made for you and made for you to grow and for you to better yourself. And believe me, all four of us, we've been through a lot of dark times. But particularly in my life, I can accredit a lot of those dark times towards the success that I have now. So definitely, you know, stay positive, stay consistent, and keep that open mind.
Yo, Pizzle, that was great, bro. You might need to get a mic. I'm gonna just say it now. We got it on record. So I just came up with an idea. When we do the game day, at whatever point, you can more or less deliver that message to the participants, right? And then we can have it how you and Man had it set up at HD, like the photo station.
Yep.
You got the black backdrop, the dark sky, right? And you got your big spotlights. Boom, that's the picture, right? And we can put like a message like, this is the day I noticed that the problem comes before the opportunity or whatever, right? Because that was a great, I saw what you said. I like that.
Yeah, appreciate that. I only learned that from you know, keeping an open mind and learning that from somebody that taught that down to me. So that's the benefit of keeping that open mind, man, and seeking knowledge.
Keep that in the cut.
Yeah. Can't tell everybody, man. We can't tell everybody.
To follow up on what you all said during our workout yesterday, I heard Inky Johnson say that, and I stopped doing the workout to put it in my notes. I needed to write it down. Perspective is your passport or your prison. Perspective is your passport or your prison. And also, mostly according to what Just said and KG, that it's not about you. Like once you make it not about you, your mind will open up immensely. Once you make it not about you, your mind will open up immensely. And small steps are cool because happiness is all about progress, right? If you all out of shape, if you focus on the fact that you got to lose 100 pounds, it's going to defeat you unless you're an absolute dog. And you probably wouldn't be in that shape if you are an absolute dog. So you're probably not that. But yo, instead of 100, I need 5 a week. 20 weeks is what? 5 months, right? 5 a week, 5 a week, 5 a week, 5 a week. You look back a month later, you 20 pounds down. Happiness is all about progress. And then the biggest part to me that I got from Justin KG is that it's not about you. It's not about you. Like I guess to toot my own horn a little bit, like I work extremely hard just to be able to do what we do now. Like I forgot yesterday that I didn't do the post and all that for the podcast this morning until my mom texted me this morning because I got off my routine. Because they came to see Nas yesterday. I pulled up on KG and Kels. Normally I'm always working. So I took some time off to be like a regular person and I fell back. And I don't expect everybody else to understand that. Like even y'all always tell me like, yo, Mom, y'all don't really tell me to slow down, but y'all tell me to slow down. You feel me? Like maybe I'm moving too fast. But the part like where Game 7 is my baby, where I always put myself out there, it's like that message that we talked about yesterday. To where a person told us like, yo, you probably just saved my job. You saved my mindset. You saved my life. I needed that workout today. And more important than the workout, I needed that message. Right? That's why we're doing all of these free things that we've already been paid thousands upon thousands for just to help people. Right? So you're willing to do far more when it's about somebody else. Right? You're putting all this bad stuff into your body, you drinking and you doing all this, and then one day your son is old enough to see it, he's 13 or 14, yo, Pops, I need you to stop doing that. That might be the day that you stop. Even though your wife and your mom and everybody else been telling you to stop, the day that you made it about somebody else, you decided to make the decision to have an open mind and to do better. And that's why I'm always pushing y'all, like, show your journey, yo. Show your journey. I don't care how bad your life is going on. I need y'all need to do this game 7 stuff because people are always watching. And we get messages all the time like, yo, like people done told us, I say this all the time, like little kids done told me like, yo, Malcolm, you saved my life, yo. Like I was gonna kill myself. I was gonna quit. But I heard your voice in my head, like the KB message. It was dark, but I can be that star. Right? Or like, yo, you saved my job, or I overcame cancer, or I made it to college. Nobody said I could do it. Or Mr. Malcolm, I got my first A, right? Or I've been out of shape for the past 40 years, and just as I've been working out with y'all, I lost 20 pounds. Right? So by making it about somebody else, your mind opens up immensely. But when it's only you in your little box, I guess that's what Just was saying about what he wanted from his father. I'm sure Mr. Darren, he was like, yo, just flip the switch back on, yo. Just gonna figure it out. Just flip the switch back on. That's all he was reaching for. Not to come back at 6'2", 230, running the 4'2", like Just wanted. You feel me? So when you make it about somebody else, your mind opens up so much more. So if you're stuck in your own little box, you're making it about you. I can't wait until we become more believable and we get more results. Then people start to pick things up. Oh, I get the 7 days a week now. I get why I should show my method. I get why I should show my message. I get why I should show my mess because it's a message to somebody else. I get why I should show my test because it's a testimony to somebody else. I get why you were always on me, Malcolm. I get it, right? But people that are struggling, you're probably making something about you, right? No, that's not struggling. That's suffering. When you're suffering, it's about you. But you struggle when it's about other people. And I want to overemphasize, it's about one step at a time. Because that car that goes 25 miles an hour and never stops is going to go way farther than that drag racing car that goes 200 miles per hour for a mile. Then got to get all fixed up, go all the way back, and restart again. So happiness is about progress, and make it about somebody else, and your mind will open up. So any closing thoughts, fellas?
I think that was a perfect way to, end it. Unless somebody else got something to say.
Nah, that was great.
That was good.
So your passport is, no, not your passport. Your perspective is your passport or your prison. You suffer when it's about you, but you struggle through it when it's about somebody else. Take that with you, eat it up. See you next week. Peace out.